People often picture medieval princesses as fairy tale figures, stunning young women living in luxury, draped in elegant gowns and wearing tall, pointed hats while waiting for a brave knight to rescue them. But reality was far from that dream. Between 1200 and 1400, nearly one-third of royal women died before reaching the age of 30, enduring forced marriages, dangerous pregnancies, and constant political exploitation. Their lives were less about romance and more about survival. Now, let's step into what being a medieval princess was truly like. But before we dive in, if you listen to these often, hit like or subscribe. I'm always curious where everyone's tuning in from, so drop your city and the time in the comments. It's wild to think some of you are having breakfast in London while I'm recording this late at night in the States. Anyway, let's head back to medieval Europe. Trust me, it's going to be quite the journey. Get comfortable first. Seriously, fix those pillows and grab a blanket, because where we're going, you'll want to be cozy. Imagine waking up inside a cold stone chamber of a 13th century English castle. The first thing you notice isn't sunlight, it's the freezing chill, not the cozy kind that makes you snuggle deeper under your blanket, but the biting bone-deep cold that stings and makes your breath visible in the air. Forget about soft memory foam beds and Egyptian cotton sheets. You're lying on a straw-filled mattress. And you're not alone in there. The rustling sound you hear? Mice. They live in your bed now. Those little bites you feel? Fleas and bedbugs, constant companions no amount of wealth or status can keep away. The room is nearly pitch black. There's no electricity, no switches, no bedside lamps, just heavy darkness, occasionally broken by a faint sliver of dawn light seeping through narrow window slits that let in more icy air than warmth. And then there's the smell. Castles weren't exactly designed with great ventilation. The damp, musty odor comes from the perpetually wet stone walls, thanks to England's climate. But underneath that is another sharp stench, the chamber pot sitting in the corner, because bathrooms didn't exist. And despite what movies show, people in medieval times didn't bathe much, especially during winter, which means the air carries a strong, lingering mix of unwashed bodies. Morning, my lady. The voice startles you. Right, you're not alone. Your ladies-in-waiting sleep in the same room as you, and one of them actually sleeps at the foot of your bed. Privacy doesn't exist for medieval princesses. The one who spoke, Alice, is already awake and tending to the fire that died overnight, trying to bring some warmth back into the freezing chamber. She's been up for at least an hour, because that's her job. Servants wake before you, sleep after you, and ensure your life runs smoothly. It's time for morning prayers, my lady, Alice says as she helps you sit up. The entire household gathers for this daily ritual, and skipping it isn't an option. Sick, tired, or freezing, it doesn't matter. Morning prayers happen every day, and as the princess, you must be there. God always comes first. That's non-negotiable in medieval life. Alice helps you out of bed, and the icy stone floor sends a shock through your bare feet. Getting dressed isn't anything like slipping into comfy sweats and a t-shirt. Royal clothing was designed to flaunt wealth and rank, not comfort. First comes the linen shift, the only piece regularly washed. Then the kirtle, a long-sleeved dress laced at the sides or back. Over that goes the surcoat, sometimes with absurdly long sleeves, that make doing anything without help nearly impossible. Your feet are shoved into thin leather slippers, offering no support or warmth. Arms up, Alice instructs, as she and another lady struggle to get you into your clothing. And this outfit? It's just for morning prayers. After breakfast, you'll change into another dress, switch again before the midday meal, and definitely wear something different for supper if guests are present. Your hair gets a quick brushing, nothing thorough because there isn't time. Then Alice braids it and tucks it beneath a linen veil. Forget the tall, pointed hats from fairy tales. Those came later and were only worn in certain regions. Instead, you wear something resembling a nun's wimple, a cloth covering your hair, neck, and framing your face. In public, a woman's hair is considered too alluring, too provocative to be left uncovered. Hurry now, Alice says, fastening a heavy cloak around your shoulders as the cold continues to seep through the walls. Your father will be furious if you're late, and that's the last thing you want to risk. He isn't just your dad. He's the king, or perhaps a powerful duke or earl, and he has absolute control over your life. He decides where you go, what you wear, what you eat, who you speak to, and most importantly, who you'll marry. Making him angry doesn't just mean a scolding or punishment. It could lead to being sent away to a convent, or worse, being forced into marriage with someone truly unbearable as retribution. You hurry after Alice through the narrow, winding stone corridors of the castle. They're just as cold and dim as your room. Servants dart back and forth, carrying torches and rush lights to fight the heavy shadows. As you approach the kitchens, the stench grows stronger, a mix of smoke, sweat, and old food that would probably make you gag today. Finally, you reach the chapel as the bells begin to ring. Everyone's already gathered inside. At the front stands your father, imposing as always, and beside him, if she's still alive, is your mother. Many women don't survive childbirth in this era. Your brothers, if you have any, stand closest to your father, while you and any sisters must stay behind them, because that's where women belong, always behind the men. The chapel is freezing, though dozens of flickering candles try to make the space look warm and inviting. Almost, but not quite. You can still see your breath in the cold air. The priest begins the familiar prayers in Latin. You recognize some of the words since you've heard them every day of your life, but full understanding isn't required of you. As a woman, your duty is to appear devout, respond when expected, and set an example for everyone else. Our Father, who art in heaven. The priest drones on, and you stand there in thin leather slippers, your toes nearly numb from the icy floor beneath you. Your stomach growls loudly. You haven't eaten yet, but hunger doesn't matter. God comes first, always. You might be wondering where the glamour is, the feasts, the gallant knights, the tournaments. That exists, yes, but it's not your reality. Daily life is cold, strict, repetitive, and exhausting. When the prayers finally end, you're allowed to head to the great hall for breakfast. But don't expect anything extravagant. Forget pancakes, bacon, or anything remotely luxurious. Instead, it's dense, coarse bread, nothing like soft, modern loaves. There might be some watered-down ale, or if you're lucky, a little wine. Occasionally, there's cheese, and if the chickens have been laying, perhaps an egg. That's it. You don't eat in private either. The hall is crowded with soldiers, servants, clerks, and visitors, all sharing the space. Your family sits at the high table at the front, raised above the rest of the room. Privacy isn't something medieval princesses know. As Alice refills your cup with watered wine, she leans close and whispers, "Your father wishes to speak with you after the meal." Immediately, your stomach tightens, and not from hunger. When your father asks for you, it rarely brings good news. It usually involves your marriage negotiations. Because to your family, you're less a daughter and more a political asset. A bargaining chip used to forge alliances, secure peace treaties, or gain new lands. Your personal wishes have no place in the decision. "Do you know what it's about?" you whisper back, ignoring the unspoken rule that noble women shouldn't gossip at the table. Alice shakes her head. "No, my lady, but a messenger from France arrived last night." France. The word alone makes your pulse quicken. It could mean an alliance, a powerful, prestigious one, but also a future far from England, far from everything and everyone you know. Living in a foreign court where you don't speak the language, don't understand the customs, and are viewed with suspicion as an outsider would be terrifying. Suddenly, the bread in your mouth tastes dry and bitter. You're just 13 years old. In another time, you'd be in middle school, worrying about homework, friends, and maybe your first crush. Here, you're already of marriageable age. Girls can be betrothed as infants, wed at 12, the minimum age allowed by the church, and expected to start bearing children immediately after. Speaking of children, that's your primary duty as a princess. Your entire education, limited compared to your brothers, has prepared you for one role: to be a good wife and mother. You've been taught household management, basic medicinal skills, embroidery, and maybe a little music if your family values refinement. Reading is possible if your parents encourage it, but not all noble women are literate, and writing is even rarer. If there's a chance you'll marry into a foreign court, you may have been taught some languages too. You've also been taught something else from a very young age. Your body isn't yours. Until you marry, it belongs to your family. After that, it belongs to your husband. Its purpose is simple, to produce heirs, ideally sons. But childbirth during this period is incredibly dangerous. Without modern medicine, knowledge of germs, or effective pain relief beyond herbs and prayer, many women die giving birth, from blood loss, infection, exhaustion. Even queens and princesses with the best care often don't survive. And if you live through one childbirth, you're expected to face it again and again until you've produced enough sons to secure your family's lineage. Breakfast ends, and your father signals for you to follow him to his private chamber. This is it. Whatever message came from France, you're about to hear it. Whatever decision has been made, your opinion doesn't matter. Your life isn't your own. As you follow your father down the castle's cold corridors, you pass a narrow window overlooking the grounds below. For a brief moment, your eyes drift toward the castle yard below, where two young squires are practicing swordplay. They're laughing, carefree in a way you'll never be. They're allowed to learn combat, strategy, horsemanship, all the skills denied to you simply because you were born female. Their futures will be shaped largely by their own talents and decisions. Yours, however, was decided the moment you were born a royal daughter. The heavy wooden door to your father's chamber creaks open, and you're ushered inside. Unlike your bare, cold sleeping quarters, this room radiates wealth and power. Rich tapestries cover the stone walls, both insulating against drafts and displaying family crests alongside elaborate hunting scenes. A large fire roars in the hearth, making it the warmest space in the castle. Your father's desk, a rare, costly piece of furniture, is covered in parchments, quills, and his personal seal. "Daughter," he begins, not bothering with your name. Royal fathers aren't known for affection, especially kings. His tone is clipped, businesslike. The King of France has proposed a match between you and his second son, Philip. And just like that, your future is sealed. You don't know Philip. You've never seen him, never spoken to him, know nothing of his character, whether he's gentle or cruel, clever or foolish, handsome or plain. None of that matters. What matters is that France is powerful, and this alliance strengthens your family politically. The terms are favorable, your father continues, his voice as detached as if he were negotiating the sale of a fine horse rather than deciding the course of your entire life. Your dowry will include the northern territories. In return, we gain trade rights through French ports. You're only 13. You've never left England. You don't speak French. And yet, you're expected to leave behind your home, your family, your language, everything familiar. To marry a stranger, share his bed, bear his children, manage his household, and navigate the judgmental gaze of an entire foreign court that will see you as an outsider. When? It's the only word you manage to whisper, the only question you can force out. The betrothal will be announced at Michaelmas, he says. The wedding will take place next spring after you turn 14. At last, his gaze meets yours, sharp and unyielding. This is a good match, better than I hoped for. You will bring honor to our family. Translation, be grateful. Some girls are sold to men 3 times their age. Some are sent to distant hostile kingdoms where they're hated before they even arrive. By comparison, this is a fortunate arrangement, at least by medieval royal standards. Yes, father, you reply, because there's nothing else to say. Crying won't help. Begging won't change anything. This is your duty. This is what you were born for. When you leave your father's chamber, it hits you. The life you know, already so controlled, now has an expiration date. Less than a year remains in the home you grew up in, speaking the language you understand, surrounded by familiar faces. After that, you'll belong to France, to Philip, to a life chosen for you, not by you. Alice is waiting outside the door. One look at your face and she understands. France? She whispers softly. You nod. The second son? She asks, a faint glimmer of hope in her voice. Another nod. Well, she says, trying to sound optimistic, at least he won't be king. Less pressure on you. It's a small comfort, but not much. Second sons still expect heirs. They still carry political obligations. They still have complete authority over their wives. Yet Alice isn't wrong. Avoiding the crown does mean slightly less scrutiny, slightly fewer expectations. Come, Alice says gently, guiding you back toward your chamber. It's time for your lessons. There's no time to collapse, no space to grieve, no chance to process what just happened. There are no comforting parents, no counselors, no one to share the weight of this life-changing news. There's only the relentless rhythm of a medieval princess's existence. Prayers, lessons, meals, more prayers, more lessons, maybe a little supervised recreation if you're lucky, then bed. Tomorrow the cycle begins again, and it continues, day after day, until you're shipped off to France to fulfill your true purpose, bearing children and forging alliances. This is the reality of your life. No fairy tales, no freedom, no romance, just duty, endless obligations, and the constant reminder that your body and your future aren't your own. And this is still only the morning. The rest of the day will be spent preparing you for one thing, becoming valuable marriage material. As Alice leads you back to your cold chamber, where you'll spend the next few hours practicing needlework or studying French, now more important than ever, you catch yourself wondering what it would feel like to be one of those squires in the yard, to hold a sword instead of a needle, to have choices instead of obligations. But those thoughts are dangerous. Better to push them down. Better to be the obedient daughter, the dutiful bride, the quiet servant to your family's ambitions, because for a medieval princess, that's the only way to survive. Survival, not happiness, is the best you can hope for. When you return to your chamber, several other young ladies are waiting. They're all from noble families, sent here to serve you and learn the ways of court alongside you. They aren't exactly friends. True friendship doesn't exist in this world, not among royalty. These girls are both your companions and your rivals, watching your every move, ready to report back to their families anything of value about the princess they serve. Lady Catherine will be here soon for your French lessons, Alice says, helping you change into a simpler gown more suitable for studying. Your father says you'll need extra practice now. Of course he does. The clock is ticking on your transformation from English princess to French bride. Learning the language isn't just about speaking to your future husband, it's about survival. The chamber feels slightly warmer now that the morning fire has been burning steadily. Your ladies bustle around, preparing your study materials. One of them, Margaret, about your age, glances at you with quiet sympathy. She understands. Her sister was married off to Scotland last year and hasn't been heard from since. I've heard the French court is magnificent, Margaret offers softly, trying to reassure you. Far more refined than ours. She doesn't say the rest, but you both know the truth. The French will scrutinize everything, your manners, your speech, your appearance. You'll be judged harshly, endlessly as the foreign bride. No matter how well you prepare, it will never be enough. Lady Catherine arrives, and your stomach sinks. She's a stern, sharp-faced woman who once spent time at the French court and makes sure no one forgets it. In her hand is a small wooden paddle, the same one she uses to rap your knuckles whenever you mispronounce a word. By the end of most lessons, your fingers are red, swollen, and aching, a painful reminder of the expectations resting on your shoulders. Lady Catherine begins the French lesson sharply, showing no patience. Despite years of study, you struggle, knowing your entire future depends on mastering the language. When you fail, she strikes your knuckles with a paddle, but you endure silently, as princesses must. For 2 painful hours, you wrestle with difficult sounds until your hands throb. Medieval education for girls is harsh. No rewards, only punishment for failure. Finally, Lady Catherine says, "Better," and warns you not to embarrass your family at the French court. After she leaves, your ladies tend to your sore hands with herbal salve, part of your broader education in healing and poisons. Next comes needlework, where you excel. Using costly silks and real gold thread, you embroider a religious scene of Gabriel announcing Mary's fate, a reminder that, like Mary, you have no choice in your destiny. Alice reminds you that French ladies make stitches so fine they're nearly invisible, forcing you to redo your work. As your back aches and eyes strain in the dim castle light, you ask Alice about the French court. She warns it's more political and dangerous than England's, a battlefield of words, alliances, and hidden traps where women must be clever to survive. She also explains that your future French ladies in waiting will likely spy on you, reporting everything back to your husband's family. As the morning passes, you silently sew, thinking about France, your husband, your books, your freedom, knowing no one truly cares about what you want. By midday, you change into formal clothes for a meal with visiting nobles eager to see the princess who secured an advantageous match. In the crowded great hall, you sit at the high table, careful to behave perfectly, embodying the image of a modest, graceful lady. The feast is lavish, but you eat little. Beauty standards demand pale, delicate appearances. Then, before everyone, your father publicly calls out your poor French, humiliating you. He bluntly orders you to improve, unwilling to risk embarrassment in France. A visiting noble suggests assigning you a French lady-in-waiting to help you practice daily. Your father agrees immediately, deciding your future yet again without your consent. Another stranger will soon enter your life, a French lady-in-waiting who will shadow your every move, judge your behavior, and report back to your new family. After the tense meal, you're allowed a short walk in the castle garden, one of the rare moments you can go outside, though always under strict supervision. Noble girls aren't permitted to run, climb, or shout. Recreation means slow walks, gentle ball games, or dance practice. The garden itself isn't designed for beauty, but for practicality, filled with herbs for medicine and cooking, vegetables, and fruit trees. As you stroll, you ask Alice about Prince Philip. She hesitates before saying he's 17, 4 years older than you, and rumored to enjoy scholarly pursuits. That could mean wisdom or weakness, since medieval nobility values strength over intellect. Seeing your disappointment, Alice adds that he's known for kindness toward servants, an unusual trait for men of his rank. That small detail offers a faint glimmer of hope. When you ask if you'll meet him before the wedding, Alice shakes her head. The negotiations are handled entirely by proxies. You'll likely see your husband for the first time on your wedding day. Love has no place here. This marriage is a political transaction, a union of kingdoms sealed by vows and consummation. After your brief time outdoors, the afternoon brings more lessons. Today, Brother Thomas, the castle's monk and accountant, teaches household management, a vital skill for a future princess and lady of an estate. He places wax tablets filled with Roman numerals before you and instructs you to calculate kitchen expenses for an entire month. Without Arabic numerals or modern positional notation, every calculation is tedious and exhausting. You wrestle with shillings, pence, bushels, and rations, your head aching as Brother Thomas stresses the stakes. A lady who can't manage her accounts risks being cheated by servants and stewards. In the medieval world, numeracy equals power, and failure reflects not just on you, but on your future husband's reputation. After mathematics, music lessons begin. Sister Agnes brings a small medieval harp and praises your improving fingering, though your timing still falters. Music isn't for pleasure, it's another diplomatic weapon, a way to entertain and display refinement at court. You play simple hymns and devotional pieces, avoiding the secular love songs considered improper for young noblewomen. Your lesson ends abruptly when a messenger arrives. The queen, your mother, requests your presence. Even in your thoughts, you never call her mother. Formality defines your relationship. Following the servant through winding corridors, you enter her grand chambers where she works with her ladies on an enormous wedding tapestry. The intricate embroidery shows your family's crest joined with the French royal arms, a visual reminder that your marriage is not yours, it belongs to your kingdom. Your mother greets you with a nod, instructs you to sit, and orders you to work on the border's fine stitches. She watches closely, correcting your technique with sharp precision. Every movement is part of your training for survival at the French court, where your embroidery will be judged as a reflection of your worth. After a long silence, she lowers her voice and says, "Prince Philip has a reputation for gentleness." From her, this is high praise, the closest thing to comfort she's ever given you. You hesitate, then whisper the question neither of you dares speak aloud fully. Will it hurt? You both know what you mean. Your mother does not answer. The words hang heavy in the air. The wedding night, the consummation that will seal the alliance, make the marriage irrevocable, and bind two kingdoms together through your body. You ask the question silently with your eyes, but your mother doesn't look up from her needlework. Yes, she says simply, it hurts, but it passes. In time, it becomes tolerable. Not joyful, not tender, not something to be anticipated, just tolerable. That is the only comfort a medieval queen can offer her daughter about marriage. She continues, her voice flat, detached, as if reciting an obligation. Remember your duty. Provide heirs. Manage his household. Bring honor to both families. The rest is unimportant. The rest being your happiness, your desires, your sense of self, all irrelevant in the grand machinery of politics. Yes, mother, you whisper, because there is nothing else to say. The room falls silent again, save for the soft scrape of needles through fabric. You stitch quietly on the grand wedding tapestry that will hang in the halls of your new life, its threads binding your fate tighter than any vow. With each tiny perfect stitch, you feel the weight of irony. You are helping craft the symbol of your own subjugation. But that is the role of a medieval princess. You are both the commodity being traded and the artisan preparing yourself for market. As the afternoon fades, you're summoned to yet another lesson. This one with Father Ambrose, the castle's elderly chaplain. He has instructed you since childhood, his voice dry and slow, teaching you prayers, catechism, and the virtues expected of a noblewoman. Today, however, his topic twists your stomach into knots. Today, he says, his gnarled hands trembling as he opens his prayer book, we will discuss the duties of a wife. Your heart sinks. A wife, he begins solemnly, must be obedient in all things. As the church submits to Christ, so must a wife submit to her husband. You've heard this before, countless times. Medieval Christianity leaves no room for interpretation. A woman is subordinate, silent, and submissive. A wife must be fruitful, Father Ambrose continues. Children are God's blessing. To refuse them is a mortal sin. But the unspoken truth hangs heavy in the silence between you. Childbirth is dangerous. You've seen women vanish into their chambers for confinement, only for word to spread days later that they did not recover. Queens and peasants alike are lost to the perils of bearing heirs. He drones on, listing the qualities of the ideal wife: modest, patient, temperate, kind. A woman must guard her tongue, her thoughts, and her actions, for she carries her husband's honor alongside her own. In other words, you will bear responsibility without authority, blame without power. The eternal double bind of medieval womanhood. Father Ambrose recites tales of saints and virtuous wives, women who endured abuse, neglect, and suffering without protest, their rewards promised only in the afterlife. As you listen, an icy thought presses against your chest. Is this what awaits you in France? A life of endurance, silence, and carefully concealed despair? By the time Father Ambrose closes his book, the sun has begun to set, but your day isn't over. There's one final lesson before supper: dancing. In the great hall, Master Henri, a thin, elegant Frenchman, brought specifically to prepare you for court life, awaits with his usual air of disdain for provincial English customs. Mademoiselle, he says with a bow so precise it's almost mocking. Today we practice the basse danse, very important at the French court, very elegant. You take your position, back rigid, chin high, arms carefully arranged. 3 musicians begin to play lute, recorder, and drum. The basse danse is slow and stately, every movement deliberate. There is no freedom here, no improvisation. Every step is prescribed, every turn symbolic, every gesture weighted with meaning. You must glide, not stomp, smile faintly, not beam, appear graceful without showing exertion. Master Henri claps sharply. No, 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 the 3rd step is back, then left. You go left, then back, all wrong again. And so you repeat the sequence, again and again and again, until your feet throb inside thin slippers and your spine burns from holding the impossible posture. Sweat clings to your gown, but you don't complain. Princesses don't complain. They endure. They perfect themselves. At last, Master Henri declares your performance acceptable, barely. You're dismissed to prepare for the evening meal. Back in your chamber, your ladies assist you into your formal evening attire. Alice brushes your hair, now allowed to flow loose for the evening since you are still unmarried. As she works, you catch a glimpse of yourself in the polished metal mirror on your dressing table. Glass mirrors exist, but they are rare and precious. The reflection is dull, blurred, as if you're looking at yourself through water. You hardly recognize the girl staring back. Her cheeks are still round with youth, but her eyes, Her eyes look older, tired, resigned. This has been only one day in your education as a medieval princess, one of countless identical days, each carefully shaping you into something useful to your family and your future husband. Not to prepare you for a life of your own choosing, that idea doesn't exist, but to make you a valuable asset in the political chess game of kingdoms. Tomorrow will bring more French lessons, more religious instruction, more practice managing a household you don't yet own, and then more days, and more, until spring comes and you are shipped off to France like a well-trained horse delivered to its new master. Alice fastens a delicate gold circlet onto your head, the visible emblem of your rank, and, more truthfully, the gilded cage of your privilege. "It's time for supper, my lady," she says softly. "Your father will be waiting." You rise, smooth your skirts, and arrange your features into the serene mask expected of a princess. Whatever storms churn within, fear, grief, resentment for the life stolen from you, must remain hidden. That, perhaps, is the most important lesson of all. A medieval princess does not own her feelings. She buries them. You walk to the great hall, flanked by your ladies, past bustling servants and guards switching shifts. The corridors hum with activity, but you move silently, a polished jewel on display, ready to play your part in a story you never chose. The castle functions like a small town, filled with hundreds of people living and working within its walls, and as the princess, you're constantly watched, judged, and discussed. The great hall glows with candlelight and torches during the evening meal, bustling with heat, voices, and the mixed smells of food, smoke, sweat, and herbs scattered on the floor. As you enter, whispers ripple through the nearby tables about your upcoming marriage to France, but you keep your gaze modestly lowered, walking to the high table. Your father speaks with a visiting bishop in rich purple robes, while your mother silently observes everything. You take your seat and begin polite conversation with the bishop's secretary, a nervous man with ink-stained fingers, carefully following the strict rules about what a princess may and may not discuss. You ask safe, admiring questions about his work, listening attentively while appearing engaged even as your thoughts drift elsewhere. Servants move constantly, bringing platters according to rank. The high table gets the finest food, tender meats, soft white bread, rich sauces, and spices like pepper, cinnamon, and nutmeg, costly symbols of wealth. You share a bowl of leek soup with the secretary, always deferring to him first as etiquette demands. Course after course arrives, saffron fish, roasted capon, and spiced meat pies, but you eat sparingly, as a refined lady must avoid gluttony, one of the 7 deadly sins. Your stomach remains unsettled with anxiety over your future. Your father rises, delivering a formal toast to the bishop, filled with political references linking church and state. The bishop replies just as ceremoniously, though his wandering eyes betray his interest in the serving girls, a quiet reminder of hypocrisy among churchmen, an open secret at court. As the meal nears its end, musicians begin lively tunes, and your father gives you a subtle nod, your cue to perform. You approach the harp, sit gracefully, and begin playing a religious piece demonstrating both skill and piety. The room falls silent as your clear, practiced notes fill the hall. When you finish, there's polite applause, the bishop nods approvingly, and your father looks pleased. Your mother remains expressionless, but briefly squeezes your hand, the closest you'll ever come to public praise. The entertainment continues with musicians and acrobats, though you've seen their acts many times before. Eventually, your father signals the end of the formal dinner. The men retire to discuss politics, business, and war, while the women withdraw to their chambers, the strict gender divide of court life. The bishop's secretary looks relieved as you leave, clearly intimidated by the duty of speaking with a princess. Just as you prepare to rest, Alice informs you of a message from the steward. A problem in the kitchens requires your attention. Surprised, you follow her down winding stairs into the smoky, hot, functional workspaces below. As lady of the castle, you're responsible not only for appearances, but also for managing household operations. The kitchen staff bow as you enter, and Agnes, the stout head cook with strong arms, explains the problem, with the bishop's large party to feed, and tomorrow being Friday, a Christian fast day forbidding meat. The kitchens are running short on salted fish, the main alternative for the meal. This kind of practical problem falls to you, the lady of the castle. Too small for the king to handle, but crucial for smooth household management and proper religious observance. You ask how many extra men came with the bishop. 12, my lady, plus their horses, Agnes replies. You calculate quickly, recalling your training in managing supplies. Deciding swiftly, you instruct Agnes to use the salt herring from the north storeroom, send to the abbey tomorrow for more, and serve extra bread and vegetable pottage to stretch the meal. Relieved, Agnes praises your judgment. This small act of decision-making brings a rare sense of control in a life where most choices aren't yours to make. As you turn to leave, you notice a young scullery maid, no older than 10, watching you with wide eyes, her face smudged with ash and hands raw from work. She reminds you of yourself at that age, though her future promises only endless labor, while yours holds the gilded cage of royalty. On impulse, you smile. She shyly returns it before hurrying away. A fleeting moment of connection despite the vast social divide. You climb back up to the quieter corridors with Alice trailing behind. Night settles over the castle, but your duties continue. Next is a visit to the still room, run by Margery, the castle's herbalist, who prepares medicines, cosmetics, soaps, and candles. You love this place. It smells of dried herbs, beeswax, and honey, and here women's knowledge is valued. Margery curtsies briefly, then resumes grinding herbs, treating you without the heavy formality others impose. She gives you lavender salve and freshly prepared rose water, which you gratefully accept. Examining your needle-pricked hands, she tuts and advises you to wear gloves, as French ladies do. You ask her to teach you how to make the salve before you leave for France. Smiling, she agrees, promising to discuss herb alternatives there. This small skill feels empowering, a quiet act of independence in a life tightly controlled by duty. One final obligation remains before rest, evening prayers in the chapel. The dimly lit space feels hushed and intimate, with candles casting long shadows. Kneeling on the hard stone floor, you endure the discomfort, a reminder of faith and human frailty. Father Ambrose leads the prayers. Your father is still in council with the bishop, but your mother kneels beside you, silent and unreadable. You wonder if she once felt as you do. A young princess sent away, forced to adapt, bear children, and serve her family's interests. But these are questions you cannot ask. Emotional intimacy isn't part of royal roles. Distance is expected. After prayers, you return to your chambers, where your ladies prepare you for bed. The heavy gown is replaced by a simple linen shift, your hair brushed and braided, and a warming pan passed under the sheets to chase away the chill. Outside, the castle settles into its nightly rhythm. Guards changing shifts, servants banking fires, squires unrolling pallets, dogs curling by kitchen hearths. The gates are barred, and the household sleeps under routine safety. Life here follows predictable patterns: prayers, meals, duties, and rest. Yet you know your role within this rhythm will soon change when you leave for France. Margaret, one of your ladies, sits beside your bed with a small candle and several books, ready to read you to sleep, a privilege of royalty. When she offers options, you choose tales of knights, quests, and magical forests instead of saints' lives or prayers. It feels slightly rebellious, a quiet escape from the rigid expectations shaping your life. As Margaret's soft voice fills the chamber, you let yourself drift into imagined worlds where adventure and freedom are possible. Worlds far from the one waiting for you. This type of practical problem falls to the lady of the castle, not significant enough for the king, but necessary for maintaining the household and religious customs. You ask how many extra men arrived with the bishop and are told 12, along with their horses that also need feeding. You quickly calculate the supplies and decide to use the salt herring stored for next week, planning to send for more from the abbey tomorrow, while serving extra bread and vegetable pottage to fill everyone's stomachs. Agnes praises your decision, and you feel a small sense of authority, rare in your otherwise controlled life. As you leave, you notice a young scullery maid, no older than 10, with ash-streaked cheeks and roughened hands. She reminds you of yourself at her age, though her future holds endless labor, while yours is confined to the gilded cage of royalty. You smile at her. She shyly returns it before hurrying away, a brief connection across social divides. You can continue to the castle's main level, where the evening grows calmer after the bustle of mealtime. Guards stand at their posts, servants move at an easier pace, and the castle begins settling into its nightly rhythm. Your next duty takes you to the still room, overseen by Marjorie, the castle's herbalist. The room is one of your favorites, filled with the scents of herbs, honey, and beeswax. It is a women's space where knowledge of plants and healing is respected. Marjorie greets you with little ceremony, as she has known you since birth, and tells you the lavender salve and rosewater you like are ready. She examines your hands, marked with tiny pricks from constant needlework, and applies a sweet-smelling ointment, advising you to wear gloves like French ladies do. You appreciate this practical guidance, free from the heavy moral lectures of your tutors. You ask her to teach you how to make the salve so you can prepare it in France, and she agrees, pleased by your interest. This small exchange gives you a sense of independence, a chance to learn useful skills within the limits of your restricted life. Before retiring, you attend evening prayers in the dimly lit chapel, where candlelight casts long shadows across the stone walls. Kneeling on the hard floor despite the discomfort, you listen to Father Ambrose lead the prayers. Your father remains with the bishop, but your mother kneels beside you, silent and composed. You wonder if she once felt as you do now, a young princess sent away to serve her family's interests, but these are questions you cannot ask. Royal duty leaves little room for emotional closeness between mother and daughter. With prayers over, your official duties end. Back in your chamber, your ladies help you prepare for bed, replacing your elaborate gown with a simple linen shift. Your hair is brushed and braided, and a warming pan of hot coals softens the chill of the sheets. Outside, the castle settles into its nightly routine. Guards change shifts, servants bank the fires, knights and squires lay out their bedding, and the gates are secured against the outside world. Lying in bed, Margaret, one of your ladies, offers to read to you until you fall asleep. She presents a choice between saints' lives, prayers, and secular tales. Feeling slightly rebellious, you choose the tales, stories of knights, quests, and magical forests that offer an escape from your tightly controlled reality. Margaret's soft voice fills the chamber as you drift into a world far removed from your own. You glance at Lady Isabel, trying not to stare. She's around 30, elegantly dressed in French fashion, distinct from English styles, her headdress more elaborate, her sleeves tighter, and her colors brighter. She meets your gaze briefly, giving a small, polite smile as she studies you. The meeting concludes with agreement signed and hands shaken. The alliance is finalized. In just 3 weeks, you'll be married by proxy to Prince Philip of France and will soon leave England, possibly forever. As you rise, your father calls you over and orders you to spend the afternoon with Lady Isabel to begin learning about life at the French court. Lady Isabel suggests walking in the castle gardens, speaking in elegant French, far more refined than your tutors. You nod, relieved not to be immediately locked in a chamber with her. The garden shows the first signs of spring, tender green shoots and early flowers. Your own ladies follow at a respectful distance, while Lady Isabel walks gracefully beside you. After a pause, she says you must have many questions about France, the court, and Prince Philip. You manage to ask only one. Is he kind? She hesitates before answering softly. Prince Philip is thoughtful, scholarly, and not cruel. It's not the most comforting description, but better than the tales you've heard of princesses married to tyrants. She explains that the French court is far more formal and political than England's. Every word and gesture carries meaning, and you'll be constantly judged. You murmur that it sounds terrible, and to your surprise, Lady Isabel laughs. She assures you that while it's demanding, it's also magnificent, full of art, music, and grand conversations, unlike anywhere else in Europe. She asks to speak plainly and warns you that your position will be difficult at first. You're young, foreign, and untested. Some at court, especially mothers and sisters of girls who might have married Philip, will want to see you fail. Yet she says you have advantages: your youth, beauty, and intelligence. She urges you to observe before speaking, find allies, learn who truly holds power, and most importantly, produce an heir quickly to secure your place. When you ask how she learned to navigate court politics, she admits she learned through necessity, mistakes, and humiliations, but offers to help you avoid the worst of it, a rare offer of practical guidance instead of religious lectures. From then on, your French education intensifies. Lady Isabel supervises new gowns and French styles, expands your French lessons to 3 hours daily, and teaches court dances, etiquette, and posture. Every gesture is corrected. Back straighter, eyes level, show confidence. It's exhausting, but there's no time to rest as the wedding approaches quickly. One afternoon, while you're being fitted for your gown, your mother enters unexpectedly. The room falls silent before she dismisses everyone, including Lady Isabel, leaving you alone with her, a rare occurrence. She examines you closely, noting the new gown and your refined bearing. After a moment, she says the French style suits you, unusually high praise from her. Then she retrieves a silk-wrapped ring from a pouch, a gold band set with a small ruby. It has been passed down for generations from mother to daughter. She reveals her mother gave it to her when she left Spain to marry your father, a reminder of who she was before becoming England's queen. She slips it onto your finger, telling you your loyalty must now be to France, but the ring symbolizes your heritage and identity. For the first time, you glimpse the young Spanish princess your mother once was. Frightened, leaving home for a strange land and a stranger husband. Overcome with emotion, you thank her and kiss her cheek, a gesture of affection long forgotten. She stiffens briefly, then rests a hand on your hair and says softly, "Be brave." That night, lying in bed, you twist the ring on your finger, thinking of the generations of women before you who wore it, all sent away, all bound to marriages not of their choosing. You wonder whether they found happiness or merely endured their duty in silence. Their private thoughts remain lost to history, leaving only tokens like this ring as faint echoes of their inner lives. The wedding day arrives with the inevitability of the tide. You're awakened before dawn, not by Alice as usual, but by your mother's ladies. Today is different. Today everything changes. The ritual of dressing takes hours. First a bath, a rare luxury, especially in the colder months, scented with herbs and flower petals. Then layer upon layer of clothing, each more elaborate than the last. The linen shift, the silk underdress, and the wedding gown itself, cream-colored silk embroidered with gold thread and seed pearls. Its sleeves are lined with miniver fur, and its train is so long it requires 2 girls to carry it. Your hair is washed and dried before the fire, then arranged in elaborate braids wrapped around your head like a crown. Unlike on normal days, it's left partially visible, a symbol of your unmarried state that will change during the ceremony when your head is fully veiled to mark your new status as a wife. Through it all, you remain oddly calm, not happy, not excited as a bride and romantic stories might be, but not panicking either. There's a strange freedom in having no choice, in knowing that your path is absolutely fixed and nothing you feel or think can alter it. The great hall has been transformed. Fresh rushes mixed with wildflowers cover the floor. New tapestries depicting scenes from the lives of married saints hang on the walls. Hundreds of candles illuminate the space, their light reflected in silver and gold plate displayed prominently to demonstrate your family's wealth. Guests fill every available space, English nobles in their finest attire, the French delegation in even more elaborate garments, all watching as you enter on your father's arm. The music, played on harps, recorders, and small drums, shifts to a stately processional as you walk slowly toward the makeshift altar at the far end of the hall. There waits your husband, not Prince Philip, who remains in France, but his proxy, Lord Bertrand, standing stiffly in formal attire. Beside him, looking incongruously pleased, is Father Ambrose, who will perform the ceremony. The wedding itself passes in a blur of Latin phrases and symbolic gestures. You speak your responses by rote, having rehearsed them countless times. You extend your hand when prompted and feel the weight of the ring as Lord Bertrand slides it onto your finger on behalf of the absent prince. And just like that, you are married. Not in body. The marriage won't be consummated until you reach France and meet your actual husband, but in law, in politics, and in the eyes of the church, in both kingdoms. There's a feast afterward, more elaborate than any you've experienced before. course after course of expensive delicacies, wines from the finest vineyards, and subtleties, elaborate sugar sculptures shaped like the joined coats of arms of England and France. You sit in the place of honor, now officially a French princess rather than an English one. Lord Bertrand, having completed his proxy duty, returns to his place with the French delegation. The seat beside you remains conspicuously empty, a reminder of your husband's absence and the strange limbo you now inhabit. A married virgin, a wife without a husband. Throughout the meal, you receive gifts. Gold cups from a duke, a reliquary containing what is claimed to be a splinter from the true cross, illuminated prayer books, and jewels to adorn your person and your future home in France. Each gift giver approaches, bows, or curtsies and presents their offering with formal phrases of congratulation. You respond with equally formal thanks, your French now fluent enough after Lady Isabel's intensive training that even the French delegation looks impressed. It's all performance, a diplomatic spectacle with you at its center. Nothing about this day is for you. It's for the alliance, for the kingdoms, for the future heirs you'll produce. Your feelings are irrelevant to everyone present, except perhaps to Alice, who stands behind your chair, occasionally leaning forward to whisper practical advice. Small sips only. It's strong wine. The fish has bones. Be careful. Lord Edwin is watching for a reaction to his gift. Look pleased. These small kindnesses. Instead, as the festivities begin to wind down, Lady Isabel appears at your side. "We should retire, Princess," she says quietly. "Tomorrow will be an early start." Tomorrow the journey begins. You nod and rise, making your formal farewells to the assembled guests. Your father kisses your forehead, a rare public display of affection. Your mother embraces you briefly, and then you're escorted back to your chamber, surrounded by your ladies, for your last night in the only home you've ever known. The chamber looks different now. Your personal belongings have been packed in trunks that line the walls, ready for tomorrow's departure. The room feels emptier, echoing slightly as you move through it. Your ladies help you out of the elaborate wedding gown, carefully folding it away to be packed. It's unlikely you'll ever wear it again. It served its ceremonial purpose today. In France, you'll have new gowns made in the latest fashions, designed to impress your new court. Dressed in your sleeping shift, you dismiss most of your ladies, keeping only Alice to help you prepare for bed. As she brushes your hair, now loose again after the elaborate wedding style, you find yourself studying her familiar face in the polished metal mirror. "You'll come with me to France?" you ask, needing to hear the confirmation again. Alice nods, meeting your eyes in the reflection. "Of course, my lady. I've already packed my things." "And Margaret, your young lady in waiting who shared stories with you?" "Yes," Alice replies softly. "She's coming too, and Lady Elena and Lady Catherine." She names the other two English ladies who will form the small core of familiar faces in your new French household. It isn't much, just 4 English women among the dozens of French attendants who will surround you at court, but it's something, a small piece of home to take with you. "Are you afraid," you ask Alice suddenly, "of going to France?" Her hands pause briefly in their rhythmic brushing. "Yes," she admits quietly, but also curious. It's a grand adventure in its way, an adventure. You hadn't thought of it like that. To you, it has felt like an ending, the end of childhood, the end of familiarity, the end of the small freedoms you enjoyed as a daughter rather than a wife. But perhaps Alice is right. Perhaps there's something to be gained in this enforced journey, this new beginning. "What do you think he's like?" you ask, not needing to specify who you mean. "Really like. I mean, not what Lady Isabel says." Alice considers carefully before answering. "I think he's probably as nervous as you are. He didn't choose this match any more than you did." It's a startling thought. Somehow, you've been imagining Prince Philip as a fully formed adult, confidently waiting for his bride to be delivered. But Alice is right. He's only 17, hardly more than a boy himself, also bound by duty and family expectations. "Maybe he's nice," you say, your voice sounding young even to your own ears. "Maybe we'll get along." Alice smiles gently. "Maybe you will. And if not, well, royal couples often lead separate lives once heirs are secured. You'll have your own household, your own interests. It's cold comfort, but realistic. Medieval royal marriages aren't about companionship or love. They're about alliances and heirs. If you're lucky enough to find friendship with your husband, that's a bonus, not an expectation. Alice finishes brushing your hair and helps you into bed. The sheets are cold despite the warming pan, and you curl up tightly, trying to preserve your body heat. Would you like me to read to you? Alice asks, reaching for the book of tales that has become your nightly ritual. You nod, unable to speak past the lump in your throat. This familiar comfort, Alice's voice, the stories of adventure and magic, is something you can take with you to France. A small continuity amid the massive disruption of your life. As Alice reads, you close your eyes and try to imagine what awaits you across the channel. A new castle, a new court, a husband with a scholar's mind. And if Lady Isabel is to be believed, a gentle disposition. Perhaps it won't be as terrible as your worst fears suggest, or perhaps it will be worse in ways you haven't even considered. The uncertainty hangs over you like a cloud as you drift toward sleep, listening to Alice's voice telling stories of knights and ladies, quests and discoveries, endings both happy and sad. Tomorrow brings the beginning of your own quest, not one you chose, but one you must undertake nonetheless. And as consciousness fades, you find yourself hoping, against all medieval reality, for something like a happy ending of your own. Dawn breaks cold and misty on your departure day. You've barely slept, drifting in and out of anxious dreams where you're lost in labyrinthine French castles, unable to understand the words spoken around you. Alice gently shakes you awake before the bells for morning prayers. "It's time, my lady," she says softly. You rise without protest. The familiar routines of dressing carry a bittersweet weight this morning. The same linen shift, the same woolen kirtle, the same veil covering your hair. But today, these English garments wrap you for a journey from which you may never return. The castle courtyard is chaotic with preparations. Horses stamp impatiently, their breath forming clouds in the chill morning air. Carts are being loaded with your possessions, clothing, books, personal items deemed suitable to accompany a princess to her new home. Men-at-arms in your father's livery check weapons and saddle straps, preparing to escort you as far as Dieppe. Your mother and father await near the gate. Your father looks impatient, eager to have the leave taking over with. Political business concluded, alliance secured. Your mother's face is impassive as always, but you notice her fingers worrying at the edge of her sleeve, a rare sign of emotion. The goodbyes are formal, restrained. Your father kisses your forehead, reminding you of your duty to represent England well at the French court. Your mother embraces you briefly, whispering, "Remember who you are," before stepping back. No tears, no dramatic scenes. Medieval royalty does not indulge in public displays of emotion, even at moments of permanent separation. Lord Bertrand, who will escort you to France, bows deeply. "We must depart, princess. The tide waits for no one, not even royalty." And just like that, it's time. You mount the palfrey chosen for your journey, a gentle mare with an easy gait, selected for comfort during the long ride to Dieppe. Alice and your other English ladies are similarly mounted nearby, their faces a mixture of anxiety and excitement. "Ready, my lady?" Lady Isabel asks, bringing her own horse alongside yours. She will be your guide on this journey, your connection to the French court you're about to enter. You nod, not trusting your voice. The castle gates open, and the procession moves forward. You resist the urge to look back at the only home you've ever known, focusing instead on the road ahead. This is your life now, forward motion, away from everything familiar, toward a future you can barely imagine. The journey to Dieppe takes 3 days. Medieval travel is slow, uncomfortable, and potentially dangerous. The roads, little more than rutted dirt tracks, are muddy from spring rains. Your escort keeps a watchful eye for bandits, though the size and obvious wealth of your party make an attack less likely. Only the most desperate outlaws would dare assault a princess's procession. You rest in abbeys along the journey, the safest and cleanest accommodations available. Yet in medieval Europe, clean is a relative term. The straw mattresses almost certainly hide fleas and other tiny creatures. The food is simple but plentiful, offered with proper respect to your rank. Try to rest well tonight, Lady Isabel advises as you reach the abbey where you'll spend your final night on English soil. The channel crossing can be difficult. You've never seen the sea before, having spent your entire life inland at your father's main castle. The thought of crossing the narrow but notoriously rough stretch of water between England and France fills you with dread. You've heard tales of ships lost, of even the strongest men made helplessly ill by the motion. That night, you barely sleep. The unfamiliar abbey, with its stone walls and echoing halls, feels cold and strange. Neither home nor destination, only a pause in your journey. Alice sleeps on a small pallet near your bed, her breathing the only familiar comfort in this strange place. Morning comes too soon. A quick meal, a change into warmer traveling clothes for the sea crossing, and the procession moves on, down to the harbor at Dover where your ship awaits. The smell hits you first, salt air mixed with fish, tar, rope, and the rank stench of a medieval port where sewage flows straight into the harbor. Then the noise, sailors shouting, gulls screaming, ships creaking against their moorings. Finally, the sight, a vast expanse of gray-green water stretching endlessly, white-capped beneath a threatening sky. "That's our vessel," Lord Bertrand says, pointing to a ship larger than the fishing boats, but tiny compared to the sea it must cross. The Sainte Marie, one of the finest in the royal fleet, hardly looks reassuring, wooden, exposed to the elements save for a small cabin at the rear, relying entirely on wind and muscle to make the crossing. Medieval seafaring is primitive, dangerous, and terrifyingly dependent on the weather. "Come, Princess," Lady Isabel urges, taking your arm. "Best to board quickly and be settled before the tide turns." Boarding involves being half carried by sailors down slippery steps into a small boat, then rowed out to where the Sainte Marie is anchored. The little boat rocks violently, waves splashing over the sides, soaking the hem of your gown. By the time you reach the ship, you're cold, damp, and already uneasy. Your assigned cabin is barely large enough for a narrow bed, more like a shelf with a thin mattress, and a small chest for essentials. Alice and Lady Isabel will share the cramped space, while your other ladies must make do with sheltered spots on deck, huddled beneath cloaks and blankets. With good winds, the crossing usually takes half a day, Lady Isabel explains, helping you settle on the bed. Try to sleep if you can. It's easier that way. But sleep is impossible. As soon as the ship leaves the relative shelter of the harbor, it meets the full force of the channel. The vessel pitches and rolls violently, the timbers groaning with each wave. The small cabin reeks of tar, salt, and the lingering stench of previous passengers' sickness. Within an hour, you're violently ill, as are most of the women. Alice holds your hair back as you retch miserably into a bucket, too sick to care about dignity. Lady Isabel, somehow unaffected, offers a cloth dampened with vinegar to wipe your face. "I've made this crossing many times," she says calmly. You get used to it. You can't imagine ever growing used to this misery. Medieval medicine offers little relief, peppermint oil, which you can't keep down, and the hollow comfort of knowing the journey must eventually end. But it doesn't end quickly. A sudden storm forces the captain to change course. What should have been half a day stretches into a full day and night of relentless pitching and rolling. You drift in and out of consciousness, aware only of the endless motion, the creak of timbers, and sailors shouting commands over the wind. You find yourself praying, not the rehearsed prayers Father Ambrose taught, but raw, desperate pleas for survival. Medieval sea travel claims countless lives each year. Ships vanish without warning. Bodies are never recovered. You realize that if you disappeared beneath these gray waves, the political machinery would move on without hesitation. Another princess would be chosen for Prince Philip. Another alliance would be made. At last, mercifully, the motion changes. The ship steadies somewhat. Voices outside sound calmer, less urgent. "We're approaching Calais," Lady Isabel announces, throwing open the cabin door to let in a rush of salt air. "Come, Princess. You should be seen on deck as we arrive." It's the last thing you want. You're pale, unwashed, your hair tangled by salt spray, your clothes stained with sickness. But duty outweighs discomfort. You allow Alice to help you into a clean gown, awkward in the cramped cabin, and do what she can with your hair before joining Lady Isabel on deck. The French coastline emerges slowly, a gray-green smudge on the horizon sharpening into solid land. At last, Calais Harbor comes into view. Calais is smaller than Dover, but far busier, with numerous ships and a grand stone fortress guarding the harbor entrance. Lady Isabel explains that this is the Château d'Arleux, built by the Count of Boulogne to protect the area. Tonight you'll stay here before continuing onward to Paris. Paris, the French royal court, Prince Philip your future. It all suddenly feels terrifyingly real as the ship glides into the harbor. This is France now. You're no longer under your father's protection, no longer in a land where your language dominates. You're not just a princess anymore. You're a wife, a diplomat, a living embodiment of an alliance between two often hostile kingdoms. The welcoming party gathered on the dock is grand and imposing. Local nobles, high-ranking church officials, and a contingent of royal guards dressed in the French king's colors await your arrival. Colorful banners flutter in the brisk wind, horses paw restlessly at the ground, and the entire display showcases both respect for your status and the power of France. You're helped off the ship, still weak from the rough journey, and a litter is ready to carry you to the chateau. The courtesy fills you with relief. You doubt your legs could manage the walk. The Château d'Arleux is smaller than your father's castle, but far more ornate, its stone facade adorned with intricate carvings. Inside, you're led to the chambers prepared for your arrival. They're surprisingly comfortable, with fresh rushes on the floor, a warm fire crackling in the hearth, and a steaming bath waiting. Thank God, Alice whispers, immediately helping you undress. After the miserable crossing, the lavender and rosemary-scented water feels like pure bliss against your salt-chafed skin. Alice washes your hair, untangling the knots with patient fingers. Once clean, dressed in fresh clothes, and fed a small meal of bread and broth, the only thing your unsettled stomach can handle, you begin to feel human again. But there's little time to rest. Barely an hour after your arrival, Lady Isabel informs you that the local nobility await an audience. They've come to pay respects to France's new princess, and appearances must be maintained. She carefully selects jewelry to match your gown, ensuring every detail is perfect. Back straight, head high, expression poised yet pleasant, you put on the mask of royalty once again. In the chateau's great hall, you sit in the seat of honor, accepting bows and curtsies from French nobles whose names blur together in your exhaustion. You speak the formal French phrases Lady Isabel drilled into you, expressing gratitude and returning their courtesies. Your accent still betrays your English roots, but your grammar is flawless, a small victory. After what feels like hours, though it's likely no more than one, Lady Isabel finally escorts you back to your chambers. You did well, she says, and for the first time, her tone carries genuine approval. But there's little chance to enjoy the compliment. The journey to Paris begins tomorrow, and it will be even longer than the one from London to Dover. She isn't exaggerating. The road from Calais to Paris takes more than a week, passing through countryside that grows increasingly lush and spring-like as you move south. Unlike England, where you stayed in abbeys, here you stop at the castles of various nobles along the route. Each evening brings another elaborate welcome, another feast you must endure despite your exhaustion, and yet another round of memorizing French names and titles. The travel itself is grueling. Medieval roads are treacherous, muddy, rutted, and nearly impassable in places after recent spring rains. Your litter, carried by 4 strong men who rotate throughout the day, jolts and sways constantly. By the 3rd day, your back aches endlessly. By the 5th, you've developed sores from pressing against the wooden frame despite the cushions. We're making good time, Lord Bertrand assures you at one rest stop, as though that offers any comfort. We should reach Paris in 3 days, weather permitting. But the weather doesn't permit. A sudden spring storm unleashes driving rain, turning the roads to deep mud and forcing your party to take shelter at a manor house much smaller than planned. Accommodations are cramped. You, Alice, and Lady Isabel share a single bed, still in your damp clothes as there's no privacy to change. At least it's warm, Alice whispers in English, trying to find some comfort in the situation. She's right. The heat from your shared bodies creates a cocoon of coziness, reminding you of childhood nights when illness or cold prompted your nurses to sleep beside you. To your surprise, Lady Isabel, overhearing, responds softly in perfect English. The French countryside has its charms, even in bad weather, she says, though I admit I prefer the comforts of Paris. You're stunned. You had no idea she understood. You speak English? You ask, startled. For weeks, she has insisted on French. In the darkness, Lady Isabel smiles faintly. Of course. How else would I know what you and your ladies whisper when you think I cannot? She pauses, then adds, but don't tell the others. It's a useful advantage. You laugh, an honest, unguarded laugh, the first since leaving England. The moment softens something between you, revealing a conspiratorial side to the strict court tutor you hadn't expected. The storm passes, and the journey resumes. Finally, after nearly 2 exhausting weeks, the spires of Paris appear on the horizon. Lady Isabel points them out, the towering Notre Dame Cathedral rising proudly above the city walls. Beyond it lies the royal palace, your new home. Unlike your father's solid defensive fortress, the French palace is built to impress. Its towering walls are adorned with statues and carvings, its windows fitted with glass instead of shutters and parchment. As your procession approaches the gates, a grand welcoming party awaits, far larger and more elaborate than anything you've seen yet. Royal guards stand in ceremonial armor, nobles wear their most opulent clothing, church officials gleam in embroidered vestments, and musicians play triumphant fanfares on silver trumpets. At the center of it all, atop a magnificent white horse, sits a young man dressed in the royal blue and gold of France. Prince Philip, Lady Isabel murmurs quietly, confirming what your pounding heart already suspects. Your husband. You force yourself to breathe evenly, fighting the panic rising in your chest. This is the moment you've dreaded and anticipated in equal measure, the first sight of the man you're already married to, the stranger who will share your life, perhaps your future entirely. He's not what you expected. Taller but slender, his build delicate rather than imposing. His pale features are striking, his soft light brown hair falling in elegant waves to his shoulders, following the latest French fashion. Unlike the heavily bearded English nobles you know, his face is smooth and youthful. As your litter lowers, Prince Philip dismounts and approaches. Your legs, shaky from weeks of travel, threaten to fail you, but you summon every ounce of dignity to stand and meet him properly. He bows, lower than required for his rank. When he straightens, his blue-gray eyes meet yours, sharp, intelligent, and assessing. Princess, he greets you in flawless French, welcome to Paris. I trust your journey was not too arduous? You reply with the rehearsed words, voice steady. Thank you, Your Highness. The journey was long, but well worth the destination. You curtsy, lowering your gaze, only to look up and find him still watching you closely, as though seeking something beneath your carefully composed exterior. You must be exhausted, he says then, and there's a softness in his tone, a genuine concern missing from the ritual greeting. I've arranged for you to have time to rest before tonight's formal welcome feast. The kindness catches you off guard. Royal protocol rarely prioritizes comfort, yet here he is, breaking expectation. Thank you, you answer again, this time meaning it fully. He offers his arm, both symbolic and practical, welcoming you into his domain while steadying your weary steps. You rest your hand on his sleeve, feeling the richness of the velvet beneath your fingertips, and cross the threshold into your new life. Paris in spring surrounds you, vibrant and alive. Even through your exhaustion, the city dazzles, its size, its colors, its endless noise. Crowds line the streets, eager to glimpse their new princess. You smile and wave as you've been taught, holding your head high, embodying the image of royalty despite the fatigue pulling at your bones. The palace is grand and overwhelming, with room after room adorned with tapestries, painted ceilings, and delicate ornate furnishings unlike the sturdy English furniture you're used to. Your chambers are bright and spacious, sunlight streaming through wide windows, furnished in the French style, but with a few familiar items from England. Prince Philip gestures to a small table near the window. I had your English books placed here, he says. Lady Isabel mentioned you enjoy reading. The unexpected thoughtfulness makes you look at him differently. You speak with Lady Isabel about me? A faint blush touches his pale cheeks. I wanted to know more about my bride than diplomatic reports could tell. Lady Isabel has been informative. Before you can ask further, court protocol intervenes. Prince Philip bows. Rest, princess. We'll speak more at the feast. Alone with your ladies, the English among them look as overwhelmed as you, while the French work efficiently, unpacking and preparing for the evening. He seems kind, Alice says softly in English, helping you out of your traveling clothes into a loose robe. Yes, you answer cautiously, he does. But kindness means little here. Royal marriages are political, built to strengthen kingdoms, not individuals. A prince who notices your books still married you for your bloodline and the alliance you represent. That reality lingers, unshaken. Yet when you finally stretch out on a real bed, one that isn't moving, crowded, or too small, a quiet thought forms. Perhaps, just perhaps, this marriage might hold more than endurance. Sleep takes you almost instantly, deep and dreamless after days of exhaustion. When Alice wakes you for the feast, you feel more rested than since leaving England. The French ladies have laid out your gown, she says, into deep blue silk trimmed in silver. It's in the French style. Of course it is. You're a French princess now, expected to look the part. Your English clothes will be quietly replaced with French fashions, just as your English habits, word itself, will slowly be reshaped to fit this new life. The gown is beautiful but unfamiliar, heavier than you expect. The French ladies, whose names you're still learning, dress you with practiced hands, explaining how the sleeves fasten, how the belt sits lower on the hips, how the cut differs from English styles. They braid and coil your hair tightly against your head, covering it with a sheer veil lighter than English propriety allows. Jewels are added, sapphires, pearls, rings, until your reflection in a polished metal mirror feels both familiar and strange. Yourself but softened through French expectations. Beautiful, Lady Isabel says, inspecting you. The court will be impressed. And Prince Philip? You ask without meaning to. Her gaze softens. I believe he already is, princess, but yes, he'll be pleased tonight. The feast blurs around you. Introductions, music, dishes you barely recognize, rapid French that tests your years of study. You sit beside Prince Philip at the high table, the French king at his other side. The queen is absent, ill, though no one clarifies whether in body or mind. Philip surprises you by quietly translating phrases when the language speeds beyond your reach, ensuring you're not left adrift. Between courses, he leans close and murmurs, "Tomorrow, I'll show you the palace gardens. They're at their best in spring." "I'd like that," you reply, surprised to realize it's true. After endless days confined in carriages and ships, the thought of gardens in bloom and more time with this quiet, thoughtful prince brings a flicker of warmth. But beneath the music and polite conversation, unease coils tight in your chest. Tonight comes the consummation of your marriage, the moment that seals the alliance and begins what this society deems your purpose, producing heirs for France. You're 13. Alice has explained the basics, her words steadier than your mother's vague reassurance of "it passes." But knowledge isn't experience. The unknown looms, frightening, inevitable. By the feast's end, your anxiety sharpens to near panic. Lady Isabel appears at your side, ready to guide you to the chamber where tradition awaits. In French royal custom, you'll be blessed by a priest and ceremonially prepared for bed before being left with your husband. "Breathe, princess," Isabel murmurs as you rise. Just breathe. Through winding palace corridors, she leads you to a chamber larger than your own. Its purpose is unmistakable. A room designed for this night alone, the consummation of royal marriages. A vast bed dominates the center, its embroidered curtains bearing both English and French symbols. Candlelight spills across the walls, soft and golden. Inside, several French ladies stand waiting, faces composed, their expressions detached. This, too, is ritual. The preparation of a royal bride isn't private or personal. It's a ceremonial act, witnessed and managed by court attendants, ensuring every tradition is observed. "They'll help you prepare," Lady Isabel says quietly. "I'll remain with you until after," Lady Isabel assures softly. Then comes the moment when you're finally alone with Prince Philip, when the marriage becomes real in the most intimate way possible. The French ladies begin the ritual of undressing, removing the elaborate court gown, the jewelry, the headdress. Layer by layer, your armor of formality is stripped away. You're acutely aware of your body, still childishly thin in some places, newly curved in others. caught in the awkward, in-between state of early adolescence, not yet the fully formed woman these ladies expect you to become overnight. You're dressed in a special nightgown, white linen, finer than any you've ever worn, embroidered with symbols of fertility and blessed by a priest. Your hair is unbound and brushed until it shines, falling loose around your shoulders. Rose water is dabbed on your wrists, your throat, behind your ears. Throughout it all, you remain silent, retreating into the quiet space inside your mind where you've always found refuge from the demands of your role. Your body is being prepared as a vessel for dynastic ambitions, for the children who will cement the alliance between England and France. But your thoughts remain your own. A knock at the door. The priest enters, an elderly man with kind eyes that crinkle at the corners. He speaks the traditional blessing, invoking divine favor on the marriage bed, on the union of bodies meant to produce the next generation of royalty. The French ladies curtsy deeply as he makes the sign of the cross over the bed, over you. Then it's time. The ladies withdraw, closing the door softly behind them. Only Lady Isabel remains, seated discreetly in a corner where she can witness without intruding. Because witnesses are required, medieval royal marriages must be consummated with proof to prevent later claims of non-consummation that could invalidate the union. You sit on the edge of the massive bed, hands folded in your lap, trying to remember to breathe. The silk coverlet is cool beneath your fingers. The pillows are plumped and ready, embroidered with more symbols of fertility, pomegranates, rabbits, intertwined vines. Another knock. The door opens again. Prince Philip enters, dressed in a simple robe, his hair loose around his shoulders. He looks as nervous as you feel, his slender hands fidgeting with the belt of his robe. "Princess," he says, his voice softer than at the feast. How are you feeling?" The question surprises you. It's not part of the formal script you expected. "I'm well, Your Highness," you respond automatically. He approaches the bed slowly, as if trying not to startle you. "Philip," he says, "please call me Philip, at least when we're private." Private is a relative term with Lady Isabel still in the room, but you understand what he means. A small step toward familiarity in this most unfamiliar situation. "Philip," you repeat, the name strange on your tongue after months of referring to him only by his title. He sits beside you, leaving careful space between your bodies. "I know this is difficult," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're very young, and we're strangers to each other." You nod, not trusting yourself to speak. "I want you to know," he continues, his eyes meeting yours directly, "that I understand my duty, but I have no wish to cause you pain or fear. We have many years ahead of us. There's no need to rush." It's so unexpected, this gentle consideration, that tears spring to your eyes before you can stop them. Medieval princesses aren't supposed to cry. It's weakness, indulgence. But the strain of the journey, the strangeness of your situation, and now this unexpected kindness shatter your composure. Philip looks alarmed at your tears, clearly unsure how to respond. After a moment's hesitation, he reaches out and takes your hand. His fingers are cool and smooth against yours, a scholar's hands, not a warrior's. "Maybe we could just talk for tonight," he suggests, glancing toward Lady Isabel, who watches impassively from her corner. "Get to know each other a little. It's not what's expected. The consummation is supposed to happen promptly, witness the marriage secured. But Philip seems genuinely concerned about your comfort, your readiness." "I'd like that," you whisper. And so, on your wedding night, instead of the immediate physical union that medieval custom demands, you and Prince Philip simply talk. He speaks of his studies, philosophy, astronomy, languages, and you share your love of stories and history. He describes his favorite places in the palace gardens and promises again to show them to you tomorrow. Lady Isabel watches silently, her expression unreadable. This quiet defiance of protocol could be risky, but she makes no move to intervene. Perhaps she, too, sees the value in building a foundation of understanding before the physical aspects of marriage begin. Hours pass, candles burn low, and your initial terror slowly fades, replaced by a cautious curiosity about this thoughtful young man, someone who, like you, seems just as bound by duty as by desire. Finally, when the night is half gone, Philip sighs and glances at Lady Isabel. "We should. The marriage must be valid, he says, his scholarly formality returning. You nod, and the anxiety stirs again, though it feels different now, softer, tempered by the hours of conversation that have turned Prince Philip from an abstract idea into a real person, someone who, at the very least, seems to see you as more than a political necessity. What follows is still uncomfortable, still strange, still painful in the ways you were warned about. But Philip is gentle, apologetic, and quick. When it's done, the marriage consummated, the alliance sealed in the oldest and most binding way, he doesn't leave, though protocol would allow it. Instead, he stays beside you, his presence unexpectedly comforting in the unfamiliar bed. Rest now, he murmurs softly, adjusting the covers around you. It's been a long journey for you. Exhaustion washes over you, both physical and emotional, and you drift towards sleep. The last thing you hear is Philip's quiet voice, speaking to Lady Isabel. Something that sounds like, "Take care of her." And then, darkness claims you. The weeks and months that follow bring a gradual adjustment to your new life in the French court. Some things are easier than you feared. Philip keeps his promise, showing you the palace gardens, which quickly become your favorite refuge from the endless intrigues of court life. He makes time each day to see you, continuing the conversations begun on your wedding night, slowly building a friendship that makes the required physical duties of marriage more bearable. Other changes are harder. The French court is far more formal, more politically charged than your father's. Alliances shift like sand beneath your feet, and whispers trail you through the corridors. The English princess, the foreigner, the child bride whose accent still betrays her despite Lady Isabel's relentless coaching. They're testing you, Lady Isabel explains one evening, after a particularly cruel gathering where several French ladies deliberately spoke too quickly for you to follow, looking for weaknesses they can exploit. Why, you ask, frustration sharp in your voice. Why does it matter to them how I speak, how I dress, how I behave? Lady Isabel's expression softens, rare for her. Because you have what they want, a place at the center of power, a prince's ear, the chance to be the mother of the next generation of royalty. It is a sobering reminder of reality. Your worth lies not in who you are, but in your position, your alliances, and above all, your womb. And in a world where women hold so little direct power, these things make you both a target and an asset to cultivate. So, what do I do? You ask quietly. Watch, listen, learn who can be trusted and who cannot. She smooths your veil with practiced hands. And give France an heir as soon as possible. Nothing will secure your place more than that. But months pass. Your courses continue like clockwork. No pregnancy, no heir, no strengthened position. You're not overly worried. You're barely 14, still growing into your adult body. But the court notices. Whispers shift from mocking your accent to questioning your fertility. The king's eyes now carry faint disappointment. At formal occasions, even Philip, kind as he is, sometimes asks gently if you're well, if anything might be preventing conception. It will happen when God wills it, your mother writes in the only letter you've received since leaving England. Cold comfort from a woman who bore her first child within a year of marriage. Spring fades into summer. Summer into autumn. Slowly, you settle into the rhythms of French court life. Your French grows fluid, near native, and you begin to unravel the delicate web of relationships that rule the palace, navigating it with growing confidence. You find allies in unexpected places, a few French ladies less hostile than the rest, an elderly countess who takes a grandmotherly interest in your education, even the king's chaplain who admires your devotion in religious services. And through it all, your relationship with Philip transforms from stiff formality into something gentler, warmer, and real. He shares his books with you and speaks of ideas most men would dismiss as too complex for a woman to understand. You discover that he dislikes hunting, prefers music over military drills, and possesses a surprisingly dry sense of humor that he reveals only in private. "You're not what I expected," he confesses one evening as you sit together in your private chambers, a rare moment without attendance. "What did you expect?" you ask, curious about the image he had formed of his English bride. "Someone more." He pauses, choosing his words carefully. "Conventional, perhaps. Someone who wouldn't question so much." "And that's not me," you reply. You can't decide whether to be pleased or concerned by his assessment. Philip smiles, a genuine smile that softens his scholarly features. No, it's not, he says. You have thoughts of your own, opinions, questions. It's refreshing. Refreshing. Not proper, not suitable, not even appropriate. Just refreshing. It's perhaps the greatest compliment you've received since arriving in France. Winter settles over Paris, bringing new challenges. The palace, for all its grandeur, is bitterly cold. Tapestries and carpets help little against the icy wind that seeps through every crack in the stone walls. You fall ill with a fever that leaves you weak and trembling for days. The royal physician tends to you, his strange remedies, bleeding, purging, and foul-smelling poultices, seeming to make you worse rather than better. Philip visits daily, despite the risk of contagion, bringing books to read aloud when your own eyes are too tired to focus. During your recovery, as you lie propped up on pillows, listening to his voice shaping the words of ancient philosophers, you realize something has shifted between you. Not love, perhaps. Royal marriages rarely allow for such luxuries, but something close to affection, a genuine care for each other that goes beyond politics. Then spring comes to Paris, and with it the first blossoms in the palace gardens. But your courses fail to arrive. Once, then twice. The royal physician confirms what your body already knows. You are with child. The alliance will have its heir. Everything changes overnight. Your position at court strengthens instantly. The king greets you warmly at formal gatherings, and the French ladies who once eyed you with hostility now seek your company, offering advice and expressing concern for your health. Philip's gaze shifts too, pride mingled with worry. One evening when the flood of congratulations has slowed, he asks quietly, "Are you afraid?" You consider pretending, putting on the brave face expected of a royal woman facing the dangers of childbirth. But the concern in his eyes deserves the truth. "Yes," you admit softly. "I am." He takes your hand, a gesture that has grown natural between you over the months. "I've arranged for the best midwives in France," he says, "and I've sent for a physician from Italy who specializes in difficult births." It's more care than most husbands would offer. In these times, childbirth is often seen as women's business, a mysterious process left to midwives in God's will. Philip's practical efforts to protect you touch you deeply. Through spring and summer, your pregnancy progresses, your body changing in ways both fascinating and frightening. The royal physician monitors you closely, as does Lady Isabel, whose role has shifted from stern guardian to something almost like a friend. "You're doing well," she assures you after each examination. The child grows strong. But beneath the reassurances, you remain acutely aware of the dangers. You've seen it before, in your own family. Women lost while bringing life into the world. Infants who survived only hours or never took a breath at all. The grief that follows such losses is immeasurable. Medieval childbirth is a battlefield where women fight alone, armed only with faith and the ancient wisdom of generations of midwives. As autumn arrives and your time draws near, you're moved into the Queen's chambers, the traditional birthing room for royal women. The space is prepared according to sacred customs. Windows sealed to keep harmful air out, fresh herbs scattered across the floor to ward off infection, and religious relics placed carefully around the bed for divine protection. Labor begins on a cool September morning, your waters breaking suddenly as you walk through the private garden with Lady Isabel. Pain follows swiftly, sharper and more relentless than you imagined. You're guided to the birthing chamber, where midwives and female attendants are already gathering, readying for the long ordeal ahead. Men, including Philip, are strictly excluded. Childbirth in medieval Europe belongs solely to women. What comes next is a battle no one could have prepared you for. Hours stretch endlessly, waves of pain rising and falling, each one fiercer than the last as day fades into night. The midwives offer herbal remedies to ease the agony and quicken the birth, shifting your position again and again to aid the baby's passage. They pray aloud, invoking saints for protection. Through it all, Lady Isabel never leaves your side, holding your hand, wiping the sweat from your brow, whispering comfort when your strength threatens to fail. What began as her role as your French tutor has transformed into something unexpected, a fierce ally standing beside you. Night deepens, and with it the pain sharpens unbearably. You notice the midwives exchanging worried glances, their whispers carrying fragments of fear, your youth, your size, the baby's position. At last, Lady Isabel demands the Italian physician. Resistance flares. Men are never allowed in the birthing chamber. But Lady Isabel's authority, backed by Philip's earlier command, forces their compliance. The doctor arrives, washing his hands carefully in wine before touching you, a practice strange enough to draw raised brows from the traditional midwives. After examining you, his expression hardens. The child is turned wrong, he warns gravely. If it is not repositioned, neither mother nor child will survive. What follows is excruciating beyond words. The doctor's skilled hands working inside you, guided by rare anatomical knowledge far ahead of his time. You scream despite your royal upbringing, stripped of dignity and composure. Survival is all that matters. Then suddenly a shift. The baby turns. Your body recognizes it, responding instinctively with renewed strength. The midwives move swiftly back into place, encouraging, guiding, commanding. "Push, princess!" Lady Isabel urges, her voice breaking, fear and hope trembling beneath her calm. "Push now!" Summoning the last of your strength, you obey. There's one final, tearing pain, and then the midwife's cry fills the room. A boy! A healthy boy. The heir, the living symbol of the fragile alliance between England and France. Exhausted, you collapse against the damp, sweat-soaked pillows, barely conscious as the midwives clean the newborn, wrap him in fine linen, and place him briefly on your chest before whisking him away to be bathed and presented to his father. Lady Isabel leans close, her voice softer than you've ever heard. "You did well. Rest now. The hardest part is over." But it isn't truly over. In medieval times, danger lingers long after birth. Infection, bleeding, and milk fever claim countless mothers in the weeks that follow. You remain confined to the birthing chamber for the traditional month of lying in, watched closely by midwives and physicians for any sign of complications. The baby, named Henry after his paternal grandfather, the king, is brought to you several times a day. Defying custom, you choose to nurse him yourself rather than entrust him to a wet nurse immediately. It is a quiet rebellion against court protocol, one Philip supports after consulting the Italian physician, who believes a mother's milk offers the best chance of survival. These brief, tender moments with your son become rare islands of peace within the rigid, ceremonial rhythm of royal motherhood. When you hold him close, feeling his tiny weight resting against you, watching his perfect little fingers curl and uncurl, you come to understand something no medieval philosophy could ever teach you. Love isn't merely a philosophical ideal or a religious duty. It's a fierce, protective bond that rises above politics, obligations, and even the unusual circumstances of his birth. Philip visits daily, observing with quiet curiosity as you nurse the child, sometimes asking questions that make Lady Isabel purse her lips in disapproval. His interest in his son is genuine, though distant, reflecting the norm of medieval fathers, especially royal ones, who typically kept away from infants until they reached the age for formal education. "He has your eyes," Philip remarks one afternoon, studying the baby's face with the same focus he brings to his astronomical charts. "And my mother's chin," you add silently, struck by his unexpected acknowledgement of your contribution. In a world where sons were often viewed as continuations of the paternal line, mothers were rarely recognized beyond their role as vessels. "What do you wish for him?" you ask, curious about Philip's hopes for a child who carries such political weight. He considers the question carefully, as he does with everything. Finally, he speaks softly, so only you can hear, that he be wiser than his grandfather, that he rule with intellect rather than force. His words reveal more than an answer. They open a window into his complex relationship with his father, the warrior king who never quite understood his scholarly son. The honesty of this moment is a quiet trust, shared only between you. As your month of confinement ends, you prepare to return to court, to present yourself and the heir at ceremonies, to resume your duties as a princess. Your body still aches from childbirth, feels strangely hollow and unfamiliar, yet your mind is clearer than before. Something fundamental has shifted. not just physically, but in how you see yourself in a world that treats women as political assets. You've survived the most dangerous trial a medieval woman faces. You've produced the heir securing your place. You've fulfilled your primary duty as a royal wife, and in doing so, gained a fragile but significant freedom. It's not full autonomy, but within the constraints of medieval royal life, you now hold space for your own choices. The freedom to shape your household, to select ladies who share your interests, to explore the intellectual pursuits Philip encourages. One evening, on the eve of your return to court, Philip sits beside your bed while you nurse the baby for the last time before handing him to the wet nurse. He surprises you with an extraordinary question. What would you like to do now? Instead of dictating your duties, he waits for your answer. I'd like to learn more, you reply after a pause, about astronomy, philosophy, the things you study. Philip looks taken aback, then pleased. I can arrange for tutors and books, he says, inspired, you add, and I'd like to establish a proper library, for Henri when he's older, but also for others, for girls who might never otherwise have access to learning. It's a quiet act of defiance, challenging the limits placed on women's education, yet presented under the guise of charitable work befitting a princess. Philip considers your words thoughtfully. A royal library, he suggests, with works in both French and English, a bridge between our cultures. He doesn't say the rest, but you hear it anyway. You, too, are a bridge between kingdoms, between worlds. In that moment, something subtle but profound shifts between you. It isn't romantic love as modern minds might imagine, but a partnership of intellects, a recognition of each other as individuals, not just roles bound by politics. As you drift towards sleep, your body still healing, your thoughts are already shaping the library that will one day become your legacy. What you found in this life, forced upon you, isn't perfect happiness. Medieval existence rarely allows for that, especially for women. But you've discovered purpose, agency within limitations, and meaning where none was promised. You've survived the journey from English princess to French wife and mother. You've endured language barriers, court rivalries, physical trials, and emerged clearer about who you are beyond titles and obligations. A medieval princess's life is never truly her own. Yet within this gilded cage, you've carved out a space for yourself. To learn, to think, to influence the future through your son and through the library that will carry your name long after you're gone. It's not the ending of a fairy tale. There will still be battles to fight, political games to navigate, pressures to produce more heirs, and the relentless weight of inequality. But it is a beginning, a life that, in some measure, belongs to you. As sleep takes you, you think of your mother's ring, hidden beneath your gloves, a small private link to generations of women who endured their own constraints, finding quiet ways to preserve pieces of themselves. You are one of them now, not merely a pawn in the vast game of medieval politics, but a player, limited, yes, but with moves of your own. In knowing this, the heavy tapestry bed feels warmer, the strange French palace begins to feel a little like home, and the path ahead opens not just as duty, but as possibility. You close your eyes, imagining libraries blooming like gardens, knowledge spreading quietly through time, princesses shaping their destinies within the narrow margins history leaves them. And perhaps as dreams claim you, you drift centuries forward, beyond the walls of medieval life, into a world where the freedoms you've longed for are finally within reach, where women like you win, slowly but surely, the possibilities you only dare to imagine.